In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. In the past couple of weeks, the Catholic Church has been very much in the news of the world, news of religion, and not for good. Probably most of you have heard or read in this regard that a week or so past, it was revealed that a very prominent and elderly cardinal of the Catholic Church in the United States of America was exposed as a predator. There have now been at least 2 accusations, credible accusations, against this former cardinal, now I should say, of abuse of minors going back decades, some of it over an extensive period of time, and numerous accounts from former seminarians and young priests who alleged that they were abused by him as well, that he wielded power over them and used it in such a terribly corrupt manner. This former cardinal finally submitted his resignation, and it was accepted, and he may ultimately be laicized, that is, returned to the lay state for his terrible crimes. But the bigger scandal than just a single individual doing something so perverse and corrupt is the scandal which is bound to be revealed more and more of the terrible cover-up and protection and elevation of a man whose activities were a very open secret, known to many, and yet he was still brought up through the ranks to such prominence. Anticipate that you will be reading and hearing more about this in the days and weeks and months ahead. So that was certainly a terrible scandal with regards to the Catholic Church. But an even greater scandal, or what should be a scandal, is what happened within the past 48 hours or so. It's getting some press, but not as much. Namely, the scandal that there has been a change made to the Catechism of the Catholic Church that was first promulgated by Pope John Paul II. Now, many of you here are not fans of that catechism, and that's fine. I suspect most of you would go back to earlier catechisms for instructing your children and for yourselves. The Baltimore catechisms, for instance, or the Catechism of Trent. But regardless of whether or not one is particularly fond of this more recent catechism or not, the change that was made within it is scandalous and frankly heretical. Basically, the change regards the use of capital punishment. The change, in effect, that is presented as the teaching of the Catholic Church, and it is explicitly expressed that way in the Catechism, the teaching of the Catholic Church, then goes on to basically state is that the use of capital punishment is intrinsically wrong or evil. Does not use those words, but in effect that is what it supposedly teaches. That the use of capital punishment can never be used, shall we say, because of the intrinsic dignity of the human person, regardless of whatever crime or crimes have been committed. Now, the problem with this is it is not presented as an opinion of a pope. It is not presented as, shall we say, advocacy against the use at the present time of capital punishment. It presents it as the teaching of the Catholic Church. So we're confronted with something that within the past 48 hours, we have a new teaching of the Catholic Church that is contradictory to the teaching of the Catholic Church for nearly 2,000 years. And to try to unravel this, I need to speak a bit about modernism. But in order to speak about modernism, I also need to speak briefly about Protestantism. Most Catholics could speak in general about Protestantism. Many would simply identify one sect or group within Protestantism, in our part of the world maybe Lutheranism, and say, well, there are Lutherans who disagree with this on some points of teaching and practice. But the word Protestantism itself reveals something essential about it. It is a protest. In its origin, it was a protest. And it continues in protest against the Catholic Church as an outside force or entity or body against the Catholic Church. The founders of various Protestant groups, past and present, are very clear that they are not Catholic. They identify themselves by other titles or terms. Some take the name of their founder, Luther, and we have Lutherans. Others call themselves Baptists, founded by Calvin. Others call themselves Pentecostals. Some are Episcopalians. You name it, they call it. But they do not self-identify as Catholic. They are protesting against Catholicism, and in at least one manner or way, and probably a plethora of ways, they reject the teachings of the Catholic Church. And so they broke and formed their own religions or denominations. Modernism is basically Protestantism within the Catholic Church. It does not seek to leave the Catholic Church. It seeks to remain in the Catholic Church and to disguise itself as Catholicism. That is modernism. And perhaps I can sum this up best by quoting a modernist priest professor in my seminary days many decades ago, who said this to the class: the Protestant Reformation failed the first time because they did it from outside the church. This time it will succeed because we will do it from within. So that is how modernism works, and for that reason it is described by at least one pope of the 20th century as the most pernicious of all heresies. One of the principles of modernism is that everything is subject to change. There are no absolutes. There are no truths that are immutable. One wonders if they do not believe even in the absoluteness of God himself, because that would follow from their principle against truth. And so modernists believe that there is an evolution, not simply an evolution as scientists speak about evolution in a worldly manner, but an evolution of truth itself that depends not on something objective, such as what God reveals or what God commands, but it is subjective. It is subject to change, and it is intended for the good of the subject, man, not God. And so modernists are constantly seeking to change the church in nearly every way, if not every way, including the truths, the teachings of the church herself. Now, in the first half of the 20th century, the popes from early on sought to rid the church of this infestation of modernism. And there were oaths that were required of professors in seminaries and universities that were Catholic against modernism. There were encyclicals written against modernism, and the popes of the first 50 years fought to rid the church of this infestation. But despite their efforts, they did not succeed. And modernism continued in the church, continued to infest the church, disguised as Catholicism, to change the church from within to what is in reality not Catholicism. And the most recent example of modernism is only 48 hours or so old. It is that change that was inserted into the catechism of the 80s. Now, a crack in the window was made in that catechism where Pope John Paul did not deny the traditional teaching as such on capital punishment, but argued in effect that it should not be applied. And quite frankly, Catholics of goodwill and conscience can disagree on the issue of whether or not in a particular time and place and circumstance a death penalty should be applied. One can legitimately debate that and differ on its application. And I'm addressing this not because of strong feelings about the death penalty one way or the other, but what's beneath this and what it represents. Because it represents an attempt to change the constant magisterial teaching of the Catholic Church. And while modernists can claim that that is possible, so that what is true since Thursday or Friday of this past week was not necessarily true prior to that, despite their claims, that is contrary to Catholicism and contrary to reality. It was done in this subtle way, and to continue to accustom, no doubt, Catholics into accepting change after change after change. Not just changes to the liturgy that we're also aware of, not just the changes to sacraments of the church and to her prayers and to her liturgies and to nearly every other aspect, but change to immutable truth itself. And so we are left with a choice where no choice should be made, where no division should stand. Are we going to, because it appears in a catechism, subscribe to the new truth that because of the intrinsic dignity of the human person, a legitimate state or church authority could never take that life no matter what the crime? Is it only in the past 48 hours that the church finally recognizes or acknowledges this dignity of the human person that it failed to in the past? For nearly 2,000 years, oh, maybe 5,000 years if we go back into true religion in the Old Testament, when God commanded the death penalty, when Moses commanded the death penalty. So for thousands of years, we failed to either recognize or act upon properly the dignity of the human person. in this regard. Church father after church father, including the great St. Augustine, our patron, was wrong in affirming this teaching. The great philosophers and theologians, including St. Thomas Aquinas, were wrong in elaborating on this teaching of the church. Other great saints, as well as the great moral doctor, St. Alphonsus Liguori, all wrong. Popes who wrote on this definitively in encyclicals, wrong. Everyone was wrong, from God himself until, Francis 48 hours ago. Now we know the truth. Now it has been publicly stated. Now it is inserted into our alleged official catechism of the Catholic Church. There's this inherent dignity that can never be violated. If that were true, apart from the false and misleading teaching of the past, consider how many countless souls of convicted, condemned criminals lost their lives, while the Church was assuring state authorities that they had the right to take their lives. If we were wrong in the past, then the bride of Christ is covered with the blood of executed criminals. No, my friends, these two truths or teachings cannot stand one beside the other or even one after the other. We are forced with a choice, and we will make it. Do we choose for the novel teaching of 48 hours past, or do we choose for the truth that comes to us from God, represented and revealed in the Old Covenant, and perennially taught throughout the entire tradition of the Church, handed down to us from Christ through the apostles to the very present time? Which is the true teaching of the Church? It is, of course, that which comes to us from God, that which comes to us through Christ, through the apostles, and will stand as the truth until the end of time. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.